Good morning, everybody. We are here today on the Inside Success Track, and we're being joined by Melanie Fleet, a powerhouse agent, a team leader, an entrepreneur whose journey in real estate began during the wake of 2008 crash. Talk about coming in at a tough time. From renting apartments to leading her own team and diving into development projects in Newton, Melanie has done it all with over 400 million in career sales to prove it. She's a mom. She's someone with a deep belief in resilience, service, human connection. And we're here today to hear her story, the lessons she's learned, and the mindset that's helped her build a business and a life that she loves. I could not be more thrilled to have you with us today, Melanie. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Paula. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So
I can't believe we've known each other over 10 years. It's like
yeah,
maybe 12, 13 years, I think, probably. And
yeah, I joined KW, 2013. Yeah, way back. It's wild, isn't it crazy?
and back then, Melanie was hustling like crazy, working all the time, doing a ton of sales, right? Doing a ton of sales. But I do remember early on in our conversations that one of the things you really wanted was to have a family and be a mom. So we're going to get into that today a little bit too, because I know you've got it all now, and I'm so excited for you.
Manifesting, all about manifesting.
I love that, right? We just had
Yeah,
that talk with a bunch of people this morning about manifestation. I do love that. And we
yeah,
can tell, we can share with everybody that story about how I found out in Newton at the Dunkin' Donuts that morning. But
yeah. I know, right? Yeah,
so let's start back in the beginning because you started really in a tough market. That was a really tough time in real estate in 2009. And what was that like for you? And what brought you into real estate? Because you really came from a hospitality background.
yeah. It was honestly pretty random. I mean, obviously, the universe is always, looking out for you. But I was waiting tables. I was, late 20s, not in a good place in my life, but I knew I wanted to do something more. I hadn't actually finished college. I had switched majors so many times. And I was like, what should I do? Should I go back? So I'd actually been looking into interior design school at the time and trying to figure out, okay, like, should I go back and finish up my degree, get credits, do that? And then, kind of, again, randomly, just another waiter was like getting his license and going to work for his friend. I was like, oh, cool. I'd never imagined real estate or thought looking back, I did not have any aspiration to do sales, any of that. But I was like, oh, I'll try that. But looking back, my nature is to do things right. I didn't go to the little office he was joining, the rental office. I did my research. I interviewed with a couple of different people. And at the time I found a Century 21 that was just starting out their rental department because none of the agents were doing well selling. So they hired me right away. Obviously it's commission based. So they're like, come on in. And at the time I lived out in the suburbs in Ashland, and for 6 months or so, I was driving back and forth, all the time. I was so excited. I quit my waitressing job, I think in 2-3 weeks or something. It was so quick because I saw my first rental check, right? And I was like, oh my God, $1,000, for showing a place. And I was like, sign me up, and that, I think that was February or so. And, I had a very old school boss that I started with, which I'm so grateful now because he was like, you got to be in 10 to 5 and you can only have one weekend off a month. But I was in all the time, obviously, because that's real estate, right? You can't control it. So it was great to have that structure, but I still went in above and beyond. And then actually when I think 2 or 3 years later, when I switched to another company, I had wanted to sell at that point. I'd had 3 straight years of just renting. And I was like, okay, where could I get training and also more flexibility? I almost knew it then, and that's what happened. Once I had the flexibility to have control of my schedule, have the freedom, but then when I didn't have appointments, take the time, that's the one thing about the burnout, right? Take the time when you can. And then that's when things kind of started to kick off and I, started selling. So
what do you think?
That was that.
I mean, I've gotten to know you pretty well over the years, but what do you think attributed to really that growth? I mean, you did well. You did really well. You leveraged the rental clients that you had, right? You hustled like crazy.
Right.
You built a really strong rental network. But I do remember in some of our early conversations 12, 13 years ago, you were doing an amazing job of working that pipeline, working those clients that you would help find rentals and converting them into sales. So how do you think you
Yeah.
managed that, or what worked there?
Yeah, definitely. I think, when I look back, I joke all the time now that like my strength was my ability to work all the time and I was single, but like obviously that's not giving myself full credit. It wasn't
Mm,
just time and working all the time. Anyone can do that. But I think being intentional, like
mm,
I got the domain. Like obviously I was at a different time. Lucky there wasn't online reviews yet. Like, people didn't have websites yet. So, getting in at that time, and I bought the domain Boston's Best Agent. I hadn't even sold a house yet, right?
mm.
I started doing constant contact newsletters, again, before so much fan mail and all of that, the
Yeah.
newsletters, like, and I still hadn't even sold the house yet. And I started doing once a month, just like, here's some tips for first time home buyers. And I just was sending it out to my whole database. So, just looking back, just coming up with a plan and sticking to it. Right. And just, I've never been good with like the cold calling. And I think a lot of people think they have to be good at that to be successful. And I, found other ways, and started doing events and checking in with people. I also, did a lot of social media. Same thing. It was before Instagram. So you could get 200-300 likes on your Facebook post. So again, now it's like, God, every day I'm like, do I really have to be a social media star to sell real estate? So, but I think just being intentional, starting small, like what are the things that you can do? And also what are the things that you're good at? But what are the things that you need to learn to get a little better at? Knowing your personality, knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses. I teamed up with people, even when I went to KW, I'd had a couple sales under my belt. I had probably like 16 or so. And I still brought in like Chris Kasopoulos. I brought in Janet, like when I went on listing appointments and did like co-listed my first couple in Newton with them because I wanted to get them and learn from them.
Yeah.
I actually like learned, my listing presentation like came from like things from Chris, although he's like, oh, that's Ryan Buffini. Everyone has it. So it's like, you pick up little things from everyone. So I don't think I'm special at all. It's just knowing there's no one way, what works for you, but also, you have to put in the work. It doesn't come easy, right?
So many agents coming in think that this is now HGTV, right? That they're going to open the door and show the house and take the contract, and it is. There's a lot of work involved in here. There's a lot of time and hustle, and you've got to, I think that's an excellent message for a lot of the new folks that are out there listening today. That people asked me the same thing when I started, and it was hustle, and it was that drive to do better. So what do I know? What do I need to know? What else can I learn? Right? And I know you're even a perpetual learner still today. You love to
Right.
learn more things, right? And we'll talk about that in a minute, sort of where you've taken your
Right.
career, how you've grown, but you have grown a lot in these 10, 12 years in a lot of different
Yeah.
directions as well.
Yeah, totally.
So,
Right. And yeah, exactly.
yeah. So I think, let's talk real quick before we move on into the transition of your business and the growth of your business. Coming out of that customer service background and a little bit from your personal stuff where you really knew you wanted more. And I know you love manifestation and intention and, really keeping the mindset in the right place. But, I guess the bigger question here is, what was your big why? What drove all that intention and that energy to really succeed in real estate?
Yeah, and I think that's changed, and it changes a little bit over
Mm-hmm.
time for everyone, right? Back then, I was, I was like not in a good place. I lost a sibling in my 20s, and had some tough years, and I was just like, didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just had that personality. I'm really good at multitasking and doing a bunch of different things. So I needed to have the freedom, and a way to like pursue those like creative passions. And for me, it was just, for many years, I was just excited. I loved it. Like it was like competition. Like I wanted to be really good at something. I set goals and I want to hit them. And obviously customer service. I loved my clients. Like it was never about the commission. I obviously loved doing well, and it was great, and it afforded me a lot of things, but I truly loved it. Like it just never felt like work. And it never actually felt like work to me until I had a kid, right? Because then it's like, I have less time now, and like I can't, like, what do you mean you want me to show a house at 5 p.m. on a Saturday? And that's been navigating that. It's been getting easier, but I loved it. Like even when I was dating my husband, like he'd be going golf, and I'm like, great, I'm gonna go sell some houses. Like it was so fun for me. Like I would never just like want to sit home all day and do nothing on a Saturday. It wasn't my thing. Now, obviously, I would love to go to the beach with my kid, and I would love to like do all of those things. So it shifted. But for me, my big why was just like my own insides and my own personal happiness for many years. And it was like therapy for me, like it felt so good to, I don't even know if it was real estate so much as like just being a business owner, right? And that's not just for me and my life and my trauma. That's also just like my personality. Many people have that personality and they just need to be their own boss, and I know that we're so lucky to be in that position. So.
Yeah, I remember early on, if we can share with everybody, I remember you had a goal though early on about paying off
Yeah.
a mortgage.
Yeah,
And
I did.
I
Still have a thing.
I still to this day remember that day. I remember a couple of special days with you, Melanie, over the years, but I do remember that day. You want to share with everybody what that was?
Oh yeah. I wanted to find a man for many years, and then I got lucky and found my husband, and then I wanted to, to have children, and it was a struggle for a long time. And for me, that was like one of the first times in my life, you couldn't control the outcome, right? Like in real estate, you could control it. You could decide how much you worked, you could even, my husband, not to say I controlled meeting him, but I could put myself out there and go on dates and go online dating, and it took like 10 years. So that wasn't easy either. Like nothing's easy, but I got to a point in my career too, like ebbed and flowed, where I was like, oh, like I was just working to keep going because it was something to focus on, but I really, really wanted to be a mom, and I, after actually years of trying and, navigating work at the same time and growing my business at the same time, I was lucky enough. And then I ran into Paula one day, and she was one of the first people I told at a coffee shop,
Outside the Dunkin' Donuts in Newton, actually, because I was leaving town. We were talking about going to Florida, and you're like, well, I haven't really told anybody yet, but I was so excited.
Yeah.
So excited to hear that news. And he, by the way, he is so cute. I can't believe how fast he's growing up. So let's talk about that balance, because there's obviously, life changes as we grow as entrepreneurs and we grow in life, right? So how's that been different for you? How do you balance that motherhood and business?
It's hard. I mean, it's been a hard thing. And especially these last couple of years with things changing in the market and changing, and again, social media, like the things you have to do to, thrive. It's a lot, and I feel like 2 years in, I'm starting to get that balance. Obviously I started the team, and that's kind of ebbed and flowed too. That's been a big challenge. I started out big and then had my son, and things kind of slowed down because I wasn't able to input as much, and also doing my building, which we'll probably talk about. But now I'm just at a point of, okay, I tried to scale so much to do all this business and do all these things. And now it's like, okay, well, what are the things I need to do? Like we make it too complicated, right? Like what are the simple things? And getting back to like my success was really like my customer service, like, treating my clients like friends and family, because, and that's a hard line of personal and professional, but obviously that's why people trust you. I know we'll talk about books too, but I'm on my second round of reading The Full Fee Agent, and that's what he talks about is like time. And looking back, I definitely would recommend to any newbies about that, but like what's important to you. So he's talking about like how, we're all the FOMO, like that's why we call people back right away. That's why we email back right away. Like the fear of missing out, they're going to call the agents. And his whole premise is like, well, 80% of those call, unless they're referrals, but like online leads and stuff, like you have an 80% chance of not getting it. So like why, ask the right questions. Don't run out on the weekend last minute and cancel your plans for something like that you have a 20% shot of, learn to say no a little more. So I've been trying to do that. It's hard, and it's definitely hard when you're new and hustling and you just want to do it. But he's just saying, how many hours do you spend on like a listing appointment trying to get a listing? Like 8 hours sometimes, and then you don't get it. Like I can't do that. I have to ask the right questions and, just try to be a little more, mindful of that. If I called them back 3 hours later and they already found another agent, like I probably didn't want to work with that person. So that's it, just kind of, and what I've always done is just my list and my daily list and what are the things that I need to get done. And, Gary Keller always said that, like the one thing, like what are the most important things? And that's what I try to do at least weekly, what are the things that I got to get done? What are the top priorities? What are the little things that if they take till tomorrow, or that's after my son goes to bed and I do my like random catch up, so just kind of figuring that out and leaning on my team a little. as well. Like I don't really do buyers anymore because that was obviously a lot of the time, right? And a lot of the unpredictability.
Yeah.
And the listings, at least I know, when we're going to list them. I know when the open houses are, I can control it a little bit more.
So what are the challenges that have come out of that for you? Because I know that's going to be hard because you loved your buyers. You loved your buyers, right? You love that
Yeah,
hassle. So
I do.
let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit because I'm sure, like everybody out there, when they want to build and grow, and then I've heard you just say, I've grown and then I've had to scale back a little bit or really reprioritize and stuff, right? It's always kind of reevaluating that. But so where's that challenge been for you, or what's hard there, or how have you gotten through that?
It's been hard because you know me, I used to have like always really big, huge goals. And now it's just okay, like let's tone it down. Like maybe I don't need to hit 100 million anymore. Like
Yeah.
what can we do as a team, like where I can
Mm-hmm.
still survive, live a good life. I still want to take vacations. I want time, but life is short. We've all had our stuff. And especially as you get older, loss and things that make you just re-see everything. Right. So, just kind of trying to figure that out, what is that new goal? I'm actually working on it still. I don't know what it is, but what is like the new, it used to always be a number for me. Like the number doesn't matter anymore, right? I want my team to be happy. I personally would love to be at a place where I'm just working with people that call me. They're like, I'll do buyers if they're super local, but I know it's hard because you have to keep in front of your people. But I worked too hard to give it all up, right? So, it's been on my mind a lot lately. Okay, like what is the goal? If I could hit this number every year, grow my business locally. That's always been a thing I wanted to do, and I see it happening now. I have a new network growing, having a son and getting into schools. And that obviously is another way. You grow your price point, you grow your local. Sure, I can run out per showing at 7 p.m. on a Friday if it's 5 minutes down the street, like things like that. So, and then just figure out like, what is that number? What is that profit? What do I need to run for a team? I also was like running really low profit for a couple of years because I had so many employees. So I've shifted that a little bit and, kind of downgraded the team where I have like a TC again. Like I don't have any admin. I have my 4 buyers agents. And then I want to also be able to do the building, 1 or 2 a year. So.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because you've broken into development. You've done your first 2 projects in Newton, speaking of the Newton market.
On the 3rd, and have an offer in on a 4th as we speak.
Nice. There you go. So let's talk about that. What was the driving force of wanting to do that, and what advice do you have to folks that want to grow that way?
Yeah, I hear agents all the time say that. I'd love to get into flipping or renovations or building. And actually, to be honest, that's what I wanted for years is flipping. Like I didn't think I'd be diving right into building. I thought I would do my first small flip. And I think anyone who's in real estate and has like a love for houses, like, can see that would be such a fun thing. Never mind, being organized. And for me, like I said, I almost wanted to go to school for interior design. Like I've always had a love for that. Like I used to, when I was younger, abstract painting I did. Like, it was just such a fun hobby for me. Same thing, which is crazy. I hate to say manifesting, but like, I was trying to sell this off-market property and my, friend who just started doing GCing, like I sent it on tan and he texted me at like 11:30 at night, like, Melanie, why aren't you doing this yourself? Like, I'll GC it for you. And I was like, what do you mean? And then, I just actually sold the beach house. So I had some equity, and it kind of all happened from there. And for me, I love real estate. I love it, right? I love the people. I love the relationships. I love like you said, I do love the buyers, but I don't love the nights and weekends anymore, right? And unfortunately, if we were in a different market like Australia or something where they just had listing agents and you had to come during this 3-hour, and then everything was auction, like maybe the hours would be different, but I don't foresee that happening in our lifetime, right? It's just, there's too many people in it to change. So, the building renovation, a lot of people get into it for that reason too, not the money. It's to find another way to make similar income to what I was doing and a different kind of hours, right? So, I'm the client a lot of the times in the building. Like if I don't answer an email or pick a finish or do something, like I'm the one who's delayed, right? So it's, it's the same thing that I talked about, just the freedom, right? It's a freedom in a different kind, but also a different kind of rewarding. Instead of helping people, I'm like bringing beauty to like the neighborhood and like making your mark in like a different way.
Mm-hmm. So, building your legacy in that Newton market. You are definitely building your legacy out there.
Try.
I love hearing sort of the evolution. I think a lot of folks, come into this with the big goals and the big ideas, and they don't understand that the business is going to evolve, and your desires are going to evolve, and your goals are going to change, and your life is going to change as you go. Like I love that the new development piece for you gives you that time back with your family, because I know that's such a critical piece for you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
But it's high risk, high reward. I did really well in my first one. My last one, I like barely made it out alive. It's like this next one, I'm very budget conscious, but it's all the lessons, right? Like, and I feel like I started like a building how to, like, like I'm trying to do like the same things I did in my real estate business, and kind of like building the brand, building the name, like, building those systems, because it's a business where there's not a lot of women at all. There's just not, and there's not a lot of organization. You're always, I hear the stories, and you're always hunting people down. And even if you have a great DC, they're hunting all their contractors down. I've been waiting like 3 weeks to get someone back to my project I already sold to like fix a board. It's like you can't and you're like, wait a minute, but you're doing my new very big project. That's a lot of money, so I need to do this little thing. So it's just a whole, trying to take those principles. And no, I like when I got into real estate, I didn't have all that knowledge. Like I self-taught myself, like looking back now, I did have like really good systems and structure and all of that, but now I am like way more self-aware, right? So it's like, okay, what do I need to do here to like get better at every project? I know these first couple are going to be lessons, like, that's, so that's all.
Yeah. So what were some of those early lessons? So here's the magical question: was the first project successful? Did you make money on the first project?
Yes, very well.
That's amazing. That's awesome. That's a great starting point, right?
Yes.
What was your biggest lesson coming out of that project?
Nothing's ever on time, I guess.
Yeah.
Our kitchen that was supposed to be like 8 weeks took like, I don't know, like 3, 4, 5 months, things like that. And you have to be, no one's going to care as much about the project as you. You're the owner, so you're the owner, you're the investor, it's yours, it's just, even if I'm paying people to oversee it, like I have to be on top of things, so.
Yeah. Time is money.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Time is money, unfortunately. Time is money.
Yep.
So, I think you've avoided burnout. I know you've had a couple of challenges over the years, as we all, right? When you're ambitious and you want to do more and you want to serve everybody, what would you advise clients that are sort of facing that or concerned about that in terms of growth and burnout?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I've hit it many times. I think every year you hit it. Like every end of every spring you hit it, and you're like, oh my God, and then. One thing, it took me a couple of years to learn, the highs and lows of like the income, and even in rentals, you have this crazy busy summer and you get all this money. And I think for me, it's not that you want to take your foot off the gas necessarily, but it's okay to like slow down and take the time when you can, like enjoy the holidays, like, especially December. Like I would go away I'd always go away that week between Christmas and New Year's. I know it would be a slow time, and, and then know that you're going to hit the ground running in January, February, right? So, plan, be smart, budget your money, definitely don't go spend it all, in September, after the spring market or the rental market, but also know it's okay to like relax, and it's okay also in the middle of the week to take a Wednesday off and go to the pool and beach if everything's done and you worked all weekend, But does that not mean I'm not on my phone? Of course I'm on my phone. Of course I have my laptop at the pool. Like I brought my laptop to the pool this weekend with my husband and my toddler, and I was like, all right, you got him, right? I got to go write this letter for like this offer.
It's part of the deal, right? It's part of the deal. I remember I was telling somebody a story, and I was actually thinking of you when I was telling the story, because I'm like, you're probably getting to the stage when my son was little, because I came into this business with little kids.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone driving and talking to a client, and I actually said to the client, I'm in the car with, I'm in the car with a client on the way to an appointment, but let me call you when I get back to the computer. And when I hang up the phone, my little kid sitting in the car seat in the back, I'll never forget this day. He goes, "Mommy, I'm so glad I'm your client." I thought, oh no, oh no, this is how he thinks he gets my time. So you learn at different stages, right? You start to recognize things as you go through the phases.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Yeah, I'll be on my computer, like I'll just put him on like TV or something. I'm like, I gotta do this. He'll come shut my laptop and go, "Mommy, no work, no work." I'm like, okay.
I know they do start to understand that, don't they? They do start to understand that.
Yeah. It's so.
So what do you think your biggest challenge has been over these last 15 years?
Oh God, there's been so many. I know, right? They're small and then they're big, right? Like back then, I remember like, okay, how do I get my rental clients to trust me selling, not think of me as like a rental agent, and then you get so big and then you have clients. It's like, okay, how do I get my clients to know that I like sell everywhere and not just like Newton, even though I want to like build my business in Newton, right? And then how do I get my clients know that they should still call us for rentals because we'll still help them, right? And then obviously growing a team has been a huge challenge. I never really wanted a team. Like, it was kind of happened. I got so busy. I got an admin, then I got to a good place. Then I started my agents. It's managing people is a whole other job. I think that's been my biggest challenge. And my biggest also realization, like I'm not that good at it, so I have to, either, kind of scale back in who you hire. That I want to hire, the teams are different. You don't all have to be this big, huge team with this super structure. You just hire the people that work like you and kind of can do their own thing or on the team. Like I give my agents leads because I don't really, want to work a lot of the buyers anymore. So just trying to get better at hiring. I think hiring is a big thing, to hire the right people, because I'm not going to suddenly become a good manager. It's not, I don't enjoy it. It's just not my personality style. So that's been a big challenge, how to navigate the team and, maybe keep it running so it benefits everyone, but, not with these huge, big, crazy goals anymore.
I love that you know your strengths and your weaknesses, though, too. I think that's so important, Melanie. Everybody wants to be everything to everybody. And honestly, in this business, right, it's marketing, it's sales, and then you're starting to add management stuff on top of that. Not everybody's good at everything.
No,
and you got to recognize that if you're really going to go for the long.
Totally. But it's okay to learn it too. It's okay to make a mistake. Like, I'm no regrets over these last couple of years, because if I hadn't grown the team, I wouldn't have, they helped me so much when I, had my child, and, I was in a position then to do the building projects, so I was so grateful, but now I'm like, okay, well, what is the next step to like, kind of scale it back a little, where it's a different kind of team. So.
Yeah, I know a lot of people will look at someone like yourself and say, you had it easy, or you had it, and I'm here to tell you, Melanie didn't have it easy.
Oh my God, no.
Personally and professionally, there was a lot of ebbs and flows in there. I know even when you had your son, you had some health challenges coming out of that little bit of a life happens while we're doing business, right? Life definitely happens while we're doing business.
And that's, I think, one of the biggest mistakes new agents make is, thinking it's easy, or they don't have to work hard, or, they, get their first couple of deals easily, and then they think, it's not, comes and goes, So I had years where it just evened out, and I had a couple of years where I was the same, and then suddenly, I kept doing the things, and then it grew again, so.
Well, you started in a challenging market, which I don't think is a bad thing, because I actually think it forces you to really get into the process of the business, right?
Yes.
The systems, and I know you do a lot of that, and I think we're in that kind of market again now. For a while, the agents were coming in, and it was what I call low-hanging fruit, right? It was too easy to do the deals, and they don't understand how important that follow-up is, and the nurturing, and the relationships, and the really coming from value for their clients, because they would open a door and write an offer, and they think that's what this business is. And you and I both know that's not what this business is.
No.
It's a lot more than that, right? It's a lot more than that. So
yeah, I always say, like, people, you should like be in the restaurant business and wait tables once in your life. At least in the past, I thought you should get into rentals first and then sales. But on the rental market and the rental offices, that's all changed too, right? It's not like it used to be. I could literally just sit on my computer on a Sunday night and like post 300 ads on Craigslist and have like 100 leads the next day. I don't think you can do that anymore. I don't even know if you
little different.
Yeah.
Little different. And speaking of that, what are you thinking of this 2025 market? What have you seen for your business?
God, it's different, right? I mean,
Mm,
it's just different. We're definitely down on the listings. It's just crazy that we have listings that are not selling right away, and then others that get multiple
yeah.
offers. And
Right.
buyers are definitely pickier because they're just looking for more value, right? They're spending more than they wanted to spend, So,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, low hanging fruit. The same with the listings. Like if they're not perfect, they're not probably selling right away, right? So, setting different kinds of expectations. And I think the market in general has just been hit with so many different changes at once. It's kind of crazy, So it's, but I think more and more people are coming out of the woodwork, knowing they need to buy or they need to sell, right? So, uh, but I mean, I'm hoping for 2026. So for like a
Yeah,
better market.
yeah, that's what they're saying. That's what they're predicting. And I know we've seen in Massachusetts market particularly, we've seen an uptick in July, which is kind of unusual. That is usually when we'd be able to sit on the beach and kind of sit back for a minute. We haven't
Right.
really had that in
Yeah.
July
Yeah.
this year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not a bad thing. We're not complaining about being busy though.
No, absolutely not. Nope.
So, and before I go back into the new development piece, I just want to talk to you because I think you've always
No.
been really good at this, and I want to share with everybody. Sort of, I talk a lot with people about having honest conversations about with the buyers and the sellers. And again, in this market, I think this is so critical right now because if you're not having an honest conversation about price and expectations and what you need to do from the marketing side, how do you handle that with? Let's talk about sellers because I know you're doing more on the listing side, and I see online a lot of listing agents will say things like, "Oh, the seller's blaming me because it's not selling." You know, talk about your strategy there to make sure sellers are aligned where they need to be to get the results that they want.
Yeah, I think, like you said, setting expectations, telling them when like we're in a very different market, it is a bit volatile, like and it's weekend to weekend, which is all I've always told clients, anyways. You never know. Like there could be 10 other listings in your neighborhood come on that same week. It doesn't really matter. And obviously there's rare cases where it's like a hot price, a hot house. You're probably going to get a bunch of offers. I've never been someone who wanted to price low. I always want to price fairly. It sucks when you're the one who overprices it and you're wrong. I mean, I think those are the hard, and it's happened to all of us, right? Because we too
Yeah.
see the neighbor's house that's sold and think that that's going to happen. My biggest lesson, like always, is like just to trust my gut, like, because I've had times where my seller thinks it's a higher price and I look at the comps and I'm like, oh, maybe we could get that, instead of being like sticking to your guns and being like, okay,
Yeah.
well, this is the price. We will list at your price, but I want you to know we might not get it in a couple of weeks. We, should consider a price drop. So I think just being clear with that, and also giving them the data. This is how many homes are on the market. This is the days on market versus last year. Obviously, like Newton, for instance, is like very skewed. It depends on the price point, right? And if you look at the numbers in Newton, like it actually doesn't look very different than last year at all, but it feels like a whole new world, right? So I think just setting that, it's just saying like, listen, things aren't all selling overnight. It could take a couple weeks. If we don't get don't get an offer, we drop the price in 3-4 weeks, maybe sooner. So I think just setting those expectations and checking in with them, regularly too. Everyone has a different level of what they want for communication, but
Yeah.
saying like, we're going to let you know, update you on showings, we'll check in every Monday, Tuesday and let you know how the weekend went. If after 2 weeks, nothing, we'll hop on a call and we'll talk, kind of keeping in touch always with the next steps, which is what I do with my buyers. I always tell my agents you can text and email all day, but like you need to have phone conversations with them pretty regularly too. So
I love that because we do default to the text and the email out of convenience and not wanting, especially when you don't have good news for the buyer or the
right.
seller. But sometimes it's even more important to pick up the phone and have the conversation.
Yeah.
So you can see where their level of angst is around that, right? Or what concerns they might
Yeah,
have.
it's so hard to read via text, and it's so hard to
Yeah.
misread them and come off wrong and all of those things. So, I always tell clients up front, like I'll text and email for whatever, but like when it's important combos, like we're always going to hop on the call. So
There you go. So on Monday mornings, I do a Monday motivation group at 8:30 in the morning. We all jump on, so to start the week on the right track.
yeah, I love
And I
that.
did ask them if they had the opportunity to sit across from you, what questions would they want to ask? So I got a couple from them too. So
That's
one
awesome.
of them,
Okay.
one of them is what are your top 3 non-negotiable habits? Like in your life, what are your top three non-negotiable habits
Habits.
or routine? Like, do you have a routine around things, or I mean, having the little one, I suspect you got a little more of that than you ever had in your life. I would think.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I need to have like a to-do list somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't live out of my brain. I mean, so much is in my brain, but if I don't write it down, like it could go, so just, yeah, writing things down is like a big thing for me. And I even tell my agents that, like, write it down, put it in the calendar, whatever. Like, if you say you're going to do something, like, you better do it. Like, if you tell your client you're going to do something, write it down. Like, I used to live off my calendar. Like, everything would go on my calendar. Now I try to have my, like, to-do list and my calendar. But I would just say, yeah, having to-do lists is, I couldn't get things done without it. And I was always like that. I had my big notepad. I still have it. Literally 13 years later, I live off one of those.
I know. You gotta stay on this. I used to actually write. I'm like you. I used to write it on my calendar because then I wouldn't miss the follow up or miss the
Yeah.
appointment, or if I owed somebody a call. I mean, honestly, you're only as good as your word, right? So if you don't have that word, so.
I have an app called Todoist. You might like. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
And I still have my written to-do list, but like that's good for like recurring things and stuff.
Just to make sure you don't lose track of things.
Yeah, exactly.
I do. I made, when I came back to Boston from Florida, I made the transition from the paper calendar to the electronic, and it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life because I missed those notes. I missed the little
Right.
sections, so I've had to go to a notebook, kind of the same thing. Because you gotta be able to go back and review things. So one of our agents that's newer here at the Charles Gate actually is coming up your path. She's coming up the rental path and in. So
Yeah.
she's asking, if you were in my shoes now, rental agent in Boston, wanting to grow into sales, what would be your first few steps?
Make sure you're tracking every single renter and landlord, like in a spreadsheet, a database, whatever. Because I wish I had all, I have my renters, but I don't have all my landlords. Everyone you talk to, make sure you're tracking it and have it. Because even those landlords will sell someday. Like, those were some of my first listings, right? And then the renters will buy from you and sell. So
database is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, just track it, and keep in touch, obviously. Keep in touch with those people. And
I
find a way
I
for
learned
them
that the hard way.
Yeah. And I still don't do it great. Sometimes you get so busy, you can't keep in touch with everybody, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, you can't. There's another piece, and I think you and I probably struggle the same way in our business. Is a balance between systematizing and keeping it personal, right? Because
right.
if we over systematize and they're getting automatic emails and stuff too, that's not really who you are as an agent and your brand and who the experience you want people to have. So there is a balance there that people have to remember. I think some folks over systematize, right? There is such a thing as over systematizing.
And I think that's what I'll add for people. Like, I think one of the reasons my newsletters like have been so successful over the years is because I was a mix of personal and professional. I'd literally make sure I'd write a quick blurb, like my voice, myself, they're hearing from me. Not everyone wants to hear the personal stuff, but you want the people that do, I guess. But you have to mix it up. They want to see you as a person and relate to you. And that's one thing in that book I told you about is people really hire someone they trust. Like, I mean, that's the number one thing they're looking for, right?
I love something you just posted on Facebook not that long ago. I think I reached out to you even when you did it, but I wanted to print it out to tell everybody about it today. Where you said, our mission is to simplify real estate, to get back to the basics and deliver real value at every step so that you hire us not just for the results we deliver, but for the process we promise. I love that. That's you. That's so you and what your business has all been about. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was spot on. So, Melanie, what's next for Fleet Homes and Melanie personally?
I don't know. I mean, just I personally like really want to see through like this next building project because I really love it and I have a passion for it and I got to see if I can hack it, which I'm sure I can, but it's a whole nother world and a whole different industry and you're just, instead of 60 clients, you're putting all of your stuff into this one thing, so, and I don't want to give up my real estate business and it's also impossible to be 100% at any thing except, I feel like I'm pretty close to 100% at momming, but like, everything else, just accepting that I can't be 100% anymore because I don't have the time or mental headspace for it all, So, what's next for me is like figuring out like, okay, what is the right path to like maintain both, and still do the building at like a high level. And then, like you said, it's always evolving. So who knows, who knows what happens to my business in the future, but
Be bigger and better. We'll see your name on top of buildings, maybe.
my dream project would be to do like, I've only been doing like townhouses, like tear down, do two townhouses, but I would love to do like an affordable housing project and be able to bring like the beauty and the custom design and like the colors that I've done in my projects to something that's like not just like affordable housing is probably mostly just like kind of spec builds, and that for me would be like a way to be giving back and also like bringing beauty, to people in need. And but if I could ever get to that level, and would be a lot to learn, but that would be
love that
for me.
So. I love that. Those are great. That's a great aspiration to have. I really love that. And it gives everybody a peek into something I've known about you all along, Melanie. You've got a big heart. You've got a huge heart. Such a huge heart. And I'm so glad you have a little one now to share that with, and an adorable husband too on top of it, right? It's been fun to watch. I love watching the journey. I'm dating myself in my age, but a lot of you guys that I met back 12, 13 years ago when I came into leadership in real estate have gone on to get married and have kids and grow big businesses. And I just love that. I feel like the proud mama.
Yeah, it's really fun. Yeah, it's really fun. And I personally had like a tough couple of years, obviously between becoming a mom and my own health stuff and, losing my own mom. And I, had a little bit of time where I was like falling out of real estate, like falling out of love with it because again, the time thing, it was just, you have these competing things that you want so bad and you can't do them all well. And now I'm feeling really good again and remembering why I love this industry, because there's so much freedom and there's flexibility and you can change what you want and you can, the ebbs and flows of it, how lucky are we, and I think coming out of gratitude and just remembering that all the time, and you're not always going to win. It's not always going to be a good day, but like you are your own boss. I could never go back to someone telling me what to do. I mean, save for my clients.
Yeah. And your mom was a big cheerleader for you. I know she was, and a driving force for you for your career. And I love that. I love it.
Yeah, my next project is on Cherry Street. So I don't know if you've seen, like, that's why I'm doing like a pink door. I've always done a different color on the projects. I feel like that's going to be my like statement thing, to know it's Melanie build. And this one's on cherries. Obviously mauve and pink is like an in style color. My mom, it was also one of her favorite colors. And then obviously for breast cancer, pink. So I'm doing some shade of like pink door and like a little pink tile throughout. So I wish she was here to see it. She would be proud.
I love that. She's watching. She's watching over you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's watching over you. Good. Anything else you want to share with everybody?
No, I mean, I always wish I had some concrete advice to give, but work hard and be smart. And also, I guess, know like there's no right way, people do it all different ways, right? So you have to, again, really lean into like, what am I good at? Like do a deep dive. What do I enjoy? So what's, who do I want to work with? Right. So
you mentioned briefly the sort of the challenge of being a woman in this industry. And as you get into the development side, I sense that you're probably feeling that even a little bit more.
Yeah.
But how are you overcoming that, or how have you overcome that? Or
it's hard. I mean, I called a good friend the other day a question. He had like referred me a contractor, and that guy's quote was like really high. So I called him to be like, I don't know if I'm gonna go with your guy. I feel really bad. He's like, oh my God, I don't care. I don't take stuff personally like that. I was over there so worried. Like he shared this contact, and I'm gonna be like, I'm not gonna use them. He's like, I don't take stuff personally. I was like, yeah. I was like, I know you're so good with that. I was like, I'm working on that. And he laughed because it was like, it's like, it's hard because especially as a woman, and my success has been making everything so personal, but then like the losses like hurt way more, right? Because you take things so personally. And so I've been trying really hard, like not to, and men don't do that, right? Or a lot of the men, they don't even read the text. Like they don't even see the emotion in the text, so I think trying, and this is in business too, like, part of that quote that you had just read, like just trying to make it, keep the personal in there. You want it to be personalized, and like, obviously you connect with some people, but like it's a business, right? Like, and I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned these last couple of years. And where I'm at now is like, how do I run this like a business so it continues to be successful, right? And you just have to have that business mindset. You know, I probably always did in some way, but I didn't like think it, you know, like I was in it because I loved it and the joy of it and helping people. And it's a business, right? Like this is our business. We are business owners. That's why you always have to be learning, you know, call people, have coffees with people, you know, just stick with all of that. But I think, yeah, in the building, it's hard, you know, and it's hard to stand up for yourself too. At least I had that problem as a woman because you're such a people pleaser, and you know, you feel bad when you do stand up for yourself, and you're like, I'm so sorry, it was like, you know, a little, and it's like, no, just, you know, just say, no, this is how it is. You need to do your job. Like I'm paying you, right? So I think, obviously in real estate, I think there's a lot more women, so it's easier. But in the building, you know, it's the same though. It's just learning, you know, it's a good thing too, because you're kind to everyone, you know, all the workers, I'm texting them and saying thank you. And, you know, they're not, you know, they probably appreciate a woman, you know, the gentle telling them what to do, you know, versus, you know, coming in like a bulldozer. So
don't ever give up on that heart. You've got a really good heart.
No, totally. It's
sometimes it feels like you need to, though. Sometimes you feel like you need to, but
no, it hurts your heart, right? Every time you don't get every time I don't get an old client that I know I did a wonderful job with and they love me, but it's like I didn't do a good job these 2 years, especially. I definitely slacked on my lead gen. I've sucked on it the last 2 months because I've been so busy with the 2 projects, you know, but now I'm getting to the point, well, okay, it's my fault if I don't get it. You know, it is what it is, you know, and it's unfortunate. There's so many realtors in this industry, right? And they're a friend of a friend knows someone, and, you know, I wish it was different. I wish you gave good service and they just call you again. But, you know, so now I'm at the point of like, okay, what are the minimum things I need to do to keep in touch with my clients and keep in front of them, you know, and hope that they call me, right? So
do you want to go in and do the rapid fire real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question. You're just gonna kind of give me your quick top of mind answer. All right, ready? Favorite quote, saying, or mantra?
It's something like use the pain as fuel and keep going, and that is personally and professionally. Like even your losses are lessons, right? So
love that. Mountains or beach for a quick escape?
Oh, I mean, you know the answer to that, obviously.
We're beach babies. We're definitely beach babies.
Yeah.
Dream development project if time and money weren't a factor. I think you shared that with us already.
Yeah. I would love to. It was the first thing I thought of when that question was like affordable housing. You know, big, all the same 20 units, same designs, and all that. So we really
love that.
Yeah.
What is your real estate superpower?
My ability to hyper focus and just be like intentional and just you know, tunnel vision. If I decide I want to do something, I'm going to focus on that and get it done.
And I'd get back on track, because you do a really good job of just getting back on track or staying on track if something's taking you off track too. But
yeah,
favorite podcast, book, or show right now?
I'm listening to The Full Fee Agent for the second time, and it's so good. So it's just really good. It's just a good reminder of like, just focus on the clients you want to work with, you know, and that the number one thing clients hire you for is the trust that you instill in them. So, you know, earn their trust, ask them the questions. You know, we're not trying to sell. I'm not a salesperson, you know, so.
One thing you wish agents would stop doing?
God, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm just thinking it's easy, right? I don't know.
Well, there you go. That's a good one, actually. That is a really good one. Yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy. You make it look easy, but that doesn't mean it's easy.
It's not easy. It's not glamorous. Like we said, it's not. Yeah.
So the other one was, what's your signature selling attire?
Well, obviously sandals. I mean, that's the first.
That's probably our initial bond, right?
That's our hashtag. Yeah.
That's our hashtag, selling in sandals. But in Melanie, I'm pretty sure it was with you. We used to share pictures of the first time we would put sandals on and go out like in the spring to sell. It was way before everybody else.
But like February.
Way before everybody else. Yeah. In two years in Naples, Florida, I didn't wear a closed-toe shoe. I thought of you all the time because I'm like, I don't have to do anything but selling sandals. I love that. Love that.
I love it.
Melanie, really appreciate your time today. I know your schedule's busy, and we loved having you on the
I
podcast with us
loved
here
it. I
today.
feel like
And
I could talk all day. Yeah.
I know it
And
was great.
tell anyone they can reach out to me anytime, if they, want a couple concrete ideas, so
We love that. We love that. So,
yeah.
Melanie Fleet, mom extraordinaire first and foremost, and top entrepreneur in that Newton market out there in Massachusetts.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thanks for
Paula.
joining us.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a good one.